So we're gathered here today to celebrate Martin Luther King Jr., to celebrate a hero for rights, for somebody who was dedicated in the fight against inequality. And we remember him every year at this time. But every year, do we remember what type of rights he was interested in? Inequality of what? Now, Martin Luther King said something that I think is really relevant, because we can't celebrate his legacy without celebrating which rights he fought for. In the words of King, "Our most urgent request to the President of the United States and every member of Congress is to give us the right to vote. Give us the ballot and we will no longer have to worry the federal government about our rights. Give us the ballot and we will no longer have to plead the government for the passage of an anti-lynching law. We will, by the power of our vote, write the law in the statute books. Give us the ballot and we will transform the salient misdeeds of bloodthirsty mobs into calculated good deeds of orderly citizens." Because of the work of King, we have been given the ballot, but have we taken it? Now, I talk to a lot of people during election time, which for me is like all of the time, about voting, asking them if they're registered to vote, asking them if they've made it out to the ballot. One thing that Alex mentioned was registering to vote. North Carolina actually has one-stop early voting, meaning you have about 3 weeks to vote during election time. Now, what do you think Martin Luther King would think if you were too busy to vote? You know, if you're like, oh, I have an exam on election day, just not gonna do it. Or like, oh, like it takes me 20 minutes to get on a shuttle to go vote because it's off campus. There's a lot of people who died for the right for us to vote, and there's a lot of people who, you know, went through challenges that are truly enormous so that we could do it. Now, Martin Luther King thought that, you know, a lot of problems would be solved once people got the right to vote. But that is contingent on people taking that right, people using that right, and people using that right to make the world a better place. And that starts with all of us. It was Martin Luther King who said, "So long as I do not firmly and irrevocably possess the right to vote, I do not possess myself. I cannot make up my mind. It is made up for me. I cannot live as a democratic citizen, observing the laws I have helped to enact. I can only submit to the edict of others." For decades after King's death, have we grown complacent? King and protesters suffered imprisonment, tear gas, and brutality. But do we vote or do we submit to the edicts of others? Many of us are concerned about the role that big business or that a lot of money plays in the political process. But how much of that power comes from the fact that Americans have given up our right to vote, our right and our ability to shape our government for the better? When we have stopped paying attention, our voting rights have come under assault. North Carolina passed legislation that was vetoed by Purdue, and the veto was sustained by only a few votes, so it hasn't become law. That would have made it so college students couldn't use their photo IDs from the school anymore. They'd have to go and get separate IDs. And this has happened all around the state, all around the country. These laws have been passed. North Carolina was lucky that it was vetoed, because that makes a huge difference in our rights to vote. One thing that a lot of people don't know, you know, if you have voted at Duke, you might know that you switch precincts when you go from freshman year to sophomore year. Not a lot of people know why that is. And it comes actually directly out of the civil rights movement. Our precinct was split because Duke students were too active. Like, they were scared of us, right? They were like, oh wow, all these Duke students vote, like they always vote in a certain way, and we don't want that anymore. Like, we don't want a more progressive world. And so they split our precinct into two, and so it's kind of cumbersome and a little bit complicated to vote. Like, you re-register and it's a little bit messy, but totally worth it. Woo! Yeah, and so I just really encourage you, get registered to vote. There's one-stop voting, meaning you can register to vote and vote at the same time, but it is easier if you vote or like register in advance. It's still recommended. Little table right over there, voter registration. And a lot of people have questions about like, where can I be registered to vote? I'm not originally from North Carolina, but we can answer all of those questions at the table. And I'm gonna pass the mic now.